Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are talking about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons does not fit in Philadelphia, and apparently the Sixers are looking into trade options based on the news report that came out today for Ben Simmons, in which they're trying to get an all-star player back in return. So, since Ben Simmons is on the market, where could he go? So I will break down what I think would be the perfect trade for all parties involved for Ben Simmons. So, if you're interested in videos like these, consider checking out my channel. I make a wide variety of content to include fantasy football, song covers, song reactions, NBA, etc. So if you're interested, please consider commenting, or subscribing. So Ben Simmons in Philadelphia, they have a lot of issues on their team where they just simply can't seem to have a guy that they can rely upon to create shots when they need it, other than Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons is a guy that, in my opinion, needs to have a lot of space around him. He needs to be surrounded by shooters, but Joel Embiid, being a guy who primarily operates out of the paint where he's most effective, it's really limited Ben Simmons' efficiency to be able to create offense for this team. And their loss to the Atlanta Hawks, which to me is a team that Philadelphia has a lot more talent than, and yet they managed to lose to the Hawks, doesn't exactly bode well for them going forward. So you consider other factors like they didn't face Milwaukee. How would they have done against them? Brooklyn Nets, multiple players were injured. Heat are expected to get some additional players to help their team get better this upcoming season. So it makes it a little murky to consider where Philadelphia would fall on the pecking order if you continue forward with the duo of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So we will create a scenario in which Ben Simmons is traded to the Warriors. So, first of all, the teams that are going to try to trade for Ben Simmons, they have to have a lot of shooting around them. Golden State checks that block with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and they also have some other good shooters as well, like Jordan Poole, Michael Mulder, etc., that are on the team to help with that as well. Other factors, they're going to need to have some significant capital. And the Warriors do have that. They've got James Wiseman, they've got 2 draft picks this year, and they have Andrew Wiggins, who, despite a lot of the criticism of his play, is still a very young player and has demonstrated a lot of potential at times as well. So how does that fit with the Sixers' plan? So the Sixers are going to be looking for guys that could basically help them win now. They need, if you think about it, they've spent 6 years throughout the process tanking to get draft picks. So, and the primary crop of what they managed to come up with through all of that is Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So if you're going to part with Ben Simmons, who was a former #1 overall pick that they were very excited for when they got him after all that tanking that they've been doing, they're going to need a lot in return. And the question is do the Warriors actually have enough to give them that? So you look at the Warriors' primary stuff that they could offer Philadelphia. The biggest things that they could offer Philadelphia are James Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins, the 7 and 14 pick in this year's draft. And then if you want to go even further than that, they could offer some protected future firsts. If you consider that Golden State is kind of getting a little bit to the end of their prime, they're trying to win now. If you give them a pick a couple years in the future, Philadelphia might bank on that to try to accrue another young, talented player moving forward. But all of that being said, that's not really what Philadelphia is looking for. They're looking for an all-star caliber player. So the all-star caliber players that are thrown out there that Philadelphia could explore are guys like Dame Lillard, guys like Bradley Beal. So are you going to be able to acquire those guys is the question. In my opinion, I think that at this time they will not. I think both of those franchises are going to try to retain those 2 players, especially because that's the best offer they have. So you look at Portland, for example. Dame Lillard has basically been the face of the franchise for the last 8 years. They're going to be really trying to retain him and trying to see if they can make things work with him moving forward. So if they're going to make any trades, I think they would try to go in the direction of trading CJ McCollum or Jusuf Nurkic first, than just trying to trade Dame Lillard altogether. And then for the Washington Wizards, they are they also in a situation where they don't really have a lot of options other than to just continue with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook? They made the playoffs this year. They were relatively hot to end the season and played pretty well. So I predict that the front office will try to continue with that as much as they can. Additionally, if they acquired Ben Simmons, he would not fit at all with Russell Westbrook. And then you have the issue of trying to trade off Russell Westbrook, which I don't really think any teams will want him on that contract other than Washington. So that being said, I don't think Ben Simmons trades for those two would be possible. So how does Philadelphia acquire an all-star level talent? And this is where the Sacramento Kings come in. So you look at the Sacramento Kings, they have a very talented point guard, DeAaron Fox, who is one of the best up-and-coming point guards in the league. He's played very well, and he is single-handedly made the Kings competitive down the stretch for one of the last playoff spots. But if you look at Sacramento, you have to really be honest if you're their front office and try to see the level of play that you will get with DeAaron Fox and if you can build a championship contender around him. Especially in a difficult Western Conference, I don't see that being possible. You look at just going ahead 4 years into the future potentially of what this Western Conference landscape could look like, teams that will probably be championship contenders. I know there's a lot that can change between now and then, but this is just a short list of who comes to mind for me. You have to consider Dallas because of Luka Doncic. You have to consider Denver because of Nikola Jokic. You have to consider Phoenix because of Devin Booker. Those are all superstar level players that, as long as they stay in those franchises, will make them competitive. Then you have to consider the Los Angeles Lakers. They're probably going to always give themselves, make themselves competitive with free agents or other guys that want to play for that franchise and that respectable organization that has been always competitive for the last several years. Then you have some other teams like Utah, which is always a very good regular season team. Will probably have Rudy Gobert most likely through that time because of his contract. Donovan Mitchell, that's still to be determined. Memphis Grizzlies, assuming they keep Ja Morant, they're an up-and-coming team as well. So that's 6 teams right there. And you can make an argument as well for the Clippers if they still have Paul George and Kawhi. New Orleans if they still have Zion. Golden State if their core is still playing very well together. OKC if all their draft picks accrue to a superstar level player who can make them competitive right now. So Sacramento is basically not projected to be one of the top 8 teams. I have a very hard time seeing them being able to take advantage of that with De'Aaron Fox in his in his contract that he signed right after his rookie year. So that being said, more than likely if he stays with the franchise, he's going to ask to be traded. So if you're going to lose value on De'Aaron Fox and if you're not going to be competitive with him during your time in Sacramento, then you have to be honest and try to get as much as you can from De'Aaron Fox while you can and while he's got very high value around the league. So that's where this proposed trade comes in. The Golden State Warriors receive Ben Simmons and Delon Wright from the Sacramento Kings. The 76ers acquire De'Aaron Fox. The Sacramento Kings acquire Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, both first-round picks from Golden State this year, Philadelphia's first-round pick from this year, a 2024 top 3 protected first-round pick from Philadelphia, and a 2025 top 5 protected first-round pick from Golden State. So what is the argument for this deal for every team? So for the Golden State Warriors, we'll start with them. They acquire Ben Simmons. They give themselves another playmaker, a guy who can fill Draymond Green's shoes, a guy who really helps them on the defensive end on a team that really needs perimeter defense. And you give yourself another key player who can contribute to this team now to take advantage of that window of time that you have with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They also acquired Delon Wright in this deal. 1, to balance the salary with Sacramento, but 2, Delon Wright is a big physical point guard who can be a primary ball handler when Steph Curry is sitting, but as a solid defender as well, can fill into that Sean Livingston role that they had in the past. As a big point guard who can both be a primary ball handler and then also be a secondary wing defender. So this significantly helps Golden State, in my opinion. This makes them instant championship contenders once again. And they still retain Draymond Green, There is some question of whether or not how the spacing with him and Ben Simmons will work, but I think with guys like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, you don't have to worry about that as much as you would if you were a team like Philadelphia with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. For the 76ers, so this gives them exactly what they want. They're trading Ben Simmons away, and they're acquiring exactly what they need. They need somebody who can create in the half court. DeAaron Fox is a primary ball handler who can make shots from the perimeter as well as drive to the lane. Could create an amazing pick and roll combination with Joel Embiid, and he fits the timeline of this rebuild. So DeAaron Fox, if you remember, was drafted back in 2017. Philadelphia chose Markelle Fultz, a couple picks ahead of DeAaron Fox. That proved to be a huge mistake. So this gives Philadelphia a chance to remedy that and go back and get who's arguably the best point guard to come out of this class, DeAaron Fox. So, and DeAaron Fox, similar age to Joel Embiid as well. This will make them instant championship contenders. And they still keep a lot of their assets as well, like Matisse Thybulle and Tyrese Maxey. So they have a solid young core moving forward. Sacramento. So for Sacramento, one, you get a lot of picks to give yourself some cushion. 5 first-round picks for Sacramento for DeAaron Fox is a very good deal. So you're not only acquiring all the first-round picks from this year for these teams, which is projected to be a good draft, but now you have some future assets in the 2025 and 2024 pick from Philadelphia and Golden State that you can use to your advantage to potentially, as these teams age and say they have a poor season or it doesn't look like these cores are going to last long term, it gives yourself some flexibility with those picks as well to either get another superstar down the line, or if you start overachieving, then you can trade one of those picks to get a superstar back. Kind of going the Oklahoma City route for Sacramento. It would be a very tough decision to get rid of your franchise player, but you're taking a hard look at yourself and you're being honest and you're saying, maybe we're not going to be competitive with De'Aaron Fox on his time that he's most likely going to be on this team. Let's get some extra picks. And honestly, if you can get, I think Philadelphia or Golden State wouldn't have a problem giving them another first if they want to be especially picky in that regards. They're also getting James Wiseman, who didn't necessarily play great last year, but he is a very talented big, a guy that they have not had a lot of success with so far. He would be an instant starter and give them some potential as well as a former number 2 overall pick to groom as the starting center for this team. You could build a solid core with him and Tyrese Halliburton, as well as Buddy Hield as well. And then even Andrew Wiggins, he's still a relatively young player as well. So he could kind of, for the meantime, fill in as your number 1 option on your team. And if he does well in a situation where there's not a lot of pressure on him, he doesn't necessarily have to face the level of scrutiny and criticism that he's had in some of his previous stops. Could work out very well for Sacramento. So, all that being said, I think this trade would work out well for both sides. I think the argument that you can make is that, maybe with Golden State, Ben Simmons that might be a lot to give up for Ben Simmons, especially how he's played recently. But Golden State, a lot of people criticized them when they acquired Andrew Wiggins and gave up D'Angelo Russell for him, but they've proven that was a huge win for them because they not only turned around Andrew Wiggins' game, but D'Angelo Russell significantly dropped off a cliff in his level of play and now is on the Minnesota Timberwolves bench. So I think that they understand that when you're getting an opportunity to get a guy who's arguably Defensive Player of the Year caliber, could fill in for those Draymond Green shoes that when he ages and starts declining in his level of play, you're building your core right back up to be championship competitive again. So I like this trade personally for all sides. Let me know what you think about this trade, if you think who wins it, if you think it's fair, if you think it's not fair, etc. But I, in my opinion, think this is the perfect trade for Philadelphia. Get return value on Ben Simmons with De'Aaron Fox. Golden State to compete now for a championship, and Sacramento to reset for the future. So let me know what you think of this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.